Hey, Book Dragons, I'm glad you joined me today. We're going to be talking about the Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb. And this is her fourth series in the realm of the Elderlings. It's a 4-book series. And I want to talk about whether or not I think you should read the Rainwild Chronicles. Now, I do want to talk about a couple of things up front. If you have not read, at the very least, the Live Ship Traders trilogy, you really don't want to read the Rainwild Chronicles yet. It takes place in the same section of the world, and there would just be too many spoilers, to be perfectly honest. You don't have to have read the Farseer books and the other Fitz and the Fool books if you don't want to read this series, but you do at least need the knowledge that you would gain from reading Live Ship Traders. So keep that in mind. If you have not read that, then you don't want to go to this series at all yet. But if you have read that, I highly recommend reading the Rainwild Chronicles and see what you think of it. And I'm going to keep this pretty spoiler-free, so no need to worry about spoilers here. This series has a lot of negative publicity on BookTube and in reader circles in general, I think. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure why. A lot of the things I've heard is it feels too young adult. I don't like following the characters that we're following. You know, they're just kids and it seems out of place in the world, and they are kids, so I get where that is coming from, but it is not young adult by any means. So I'm going to dismiss that false information right off the bat. People may feel like it's YA, and that's their opinion, and I totally respect that, but I do not believe it is a young adult series, and there are just way too many things that probably would not fit in a young adult series. So I'm just dismissing that right off the bat. But there are other things that people don't like about the series, and I've seen so many negative reviews and lackluster reviews, and I was cautious going into the series because of all the negative things I had heard. But at the same time, I know Robin Hobb to be a master storyteller. I've loved everything else that I've read from her so far. And so I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to go in cautious, but I'm going to go in expecting to at least like it, if not love it. And after reading the series, I think it's extremely underrated. I feel like all the negative publicity is unfounded. In my personal opinion, I just had a wonderful time reading this series. Almost every single book was an absolute win for me. And even one book in this series that I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, would honestly have been a 4.5. There were just a couple of things that I felt didn't totally work, but overall the book was fantastic, and the rest of the books in the series were just 5 stars. And I don't really do star ratings, right? But I just, for Goodreads, I have to, and so I wanted to let you know how I rated it on Goodreads in case you're curious. So the Rainwild Chronicles, as I said, is the 4th series in the realm of the Elderlings, and it takes place in the Rainwild territories as well as in Beantown and in a new city called Kelsingra, and that's all I'm going to say there. I'm not going to give anything else away but those. Well, there is a town in the Rainwilds called Kasserich as well, so you know those are the locations it takes place in. And it does start out following a bunch of young people. And these are young people that have been born either deformed, and because of their deformities, they've been rejected by their families. And others are former slaves under a different kingdom in this world, and they have since been rescued and have come to live in the Rainwild territories. So it's a mixture of both, but it's more the children that have quote unquote deformities that have been born to Rainwild families, and because they have been born in the Rainwilds and the atmosphere and different vegetation and different toxins in that area have caused birth, well, they would call them birth defects, but it's different than that. And so, these are basically kids that are willingly sent on their way by their parents to do this task for the Rainwild Traders Council. They've been assigned to take care of some creatures that are also seen to be misfits and deformed or malformed. And so they figure these kids and these creatures are well suited for each other. And so the kids are going on a journey with these creatures, and they will probably never return to their families. And unfortunately, the families are quite okay with this for the most part. And it's just the kind of world it is, and you just kind of have to read more about it to understand why. And if you have read The Live Ship Traders, you will kind of know why. But you get more information on that in this series. It is a 4-book series. Of the entire series, these are the shortest books in the series. Each one is about 400 or 500 pages, and they are just really, really great. The readability of the books is fantastic, as are all Robin Hobb's books. They're very readable, and her prose is beautiful. The immersion you get into the world is fantastic, and I would say that the immersion is ratcheted up so much more in these books than it was in the Live Ship Traders. You get so much more information about what's going on. You get to learn a whole lot of new revelations about the world and about who the Elderlings were, and you get to learn more about dragons, and you get to learn about all these mysterious places that exist in the Rainwilds, and it's just fascinating. I love the world building in this series. I think her world building is top notch. And this is very much a coming of age series in many respects, which is maybe why people have thought that it was a young adult series. But as I said before, I don't think it is. But it does have that coming of age element that you see in some young adult novels. And you saw that a lot in older fantasy, though. So there's a lot of coming of age in classic fantasy that isn't necessarily labeled YA. So there is that. Coming of age is definitely very strong here. There is a huge focus on learning more about yourself and about the way existence in this world is viewed, and learning to love yourself. There are just so many really great themes in this book series, and I was just eating it up. Not only people learning to love themselves despite what they have been told are their deformities, they are learning to love other people for their flaws and different quirks that they have, or perceived flaws anyway. And they come to realize that everybody's just different, and different is good. And they learn a lot about bodily autonomy and what they want out of romantic partners. And there are romantic situations in this book and relationships that are formed. And along with all these new understandings and revelations to the characters, they are learning to design a society that is explicitly theirs and not necessarily tied to all the social requirements that they grew up with in Kasric and in Treehog in the Rainwild territories. They are forming a whole new society, and they're learning to put their own rules into play as opposed to just going with what they were raised with. And I think that is really important. This is a new generation, and they have to learn what works and what doesn't. They have to decide for themselves, okay, are my parents' rules real, or were they just my parents' rules, and am I going to create this new society based on what I feel is right for me and what I feel is right for my body, and trying to decide if they're going to have kids or not, because these kids were specifically forbidden from having kids because of the potential of other deformities, if you will. And so they're trying to decide and learn for themselves, okay, are we going to have children? Are we going to create a new society with new children and new politics and new ways of thinking and living that are separate from what we grew up with? And I just loved every minute of that, because I'm very much a unconventional type of person when it comes to social norms and social mores, and I think it's really important for people to be themselves and be who they really are deep down and make the choices that are important for their growth and well-being, livelihood, and happiness in life. As long as it doesn't harm anyone else, then they have a right to live the way that is right for them. And I think that's really important when it comes to forming a new society like they are. So I'm just kind of trying to paint in broad brushstrokes here, because there is so much to this series, and I don't want to give it away. I want you to experience it for yourselves. It is a nautical fantasy in a lot of ways. There are boats that are constantly going up and down rivers. There's live ships at play and everything like that. So it is very much a nautical type fantasy. So you have to enjoy nautical fantasies to really kind of jive with this. But the character development is so amazing as you watch these kids grow, and some of the adults that have been charged with watching over the kids. And it's just wonderful to see all of that blossoming, and all these characters really develop so strongly. There's some characters that you're going to love to hate, and sometimes even hate to hate. They're so bad, and it's just amazing. I really think that Robin Hobb knocked this out of the park. So my answer to the question, should you read the Rainwild Chronicles, is an absolutely positive yes. You absolutely must read this series, no doubt about it. If you are a fan of the Realm of the Elderlings books and you have not gotten to these books yet, or you have skipped these intentionally because you have heard all the negative things, don't do that. Please don't skip it. Read it for yourself and see what you think. If it's just not for you, then it's not for you. But give it a chance. I am so glad that I did, after all the negative stuff I heard about it, and I really think it is worth your time to read it. So I give this series a huge heart. It just absolutely worked for me in every possible way, and I would challenge anybody to read it, and I think you'll find that you might enjoy it. So that's all I'm going to say about this series, because I don't want to spoil too much. Let me know in the comments below if you have read the Rainwild Chronicles, or if you've been hesitant or decided to skip because of all the bad things you've heard. Have you read any of the Realm of the Elderlings books yet? Let me know that as well. Let's talk in the comments. And until next time, make sure you read more books, guys. And if you want to watch more of my content, here's some cards at the end of the video for you.